Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make some pizza sauce. I'm going to show you both the Neapolitan sauce, or more just give you an idea of it because it's very self-explanatory. But more so, I'm going to give you a sauce that's great in a home oven. You're going to first want some Italian whole peeled tomatoes. They don't have to be DOP tomatoes, but if they are, you're going to get real San Marzanos, and they do give really good flavor. That yellow and red stamp, which can also be found over here, will show that it's an authentic San Marzano tomato. A lot of cans will say San Marzano style, and that's a gimmick. That's not a true San Marzano tomato. But Italian, imported from Italy, whole peeled tomatoes are really good too and will work. So that's can number one. The first secret to making a good homemade sauce is having two different types of tomatoes. These are contadina crushed tomatoes. Any California, New Jersey tomato will do good. They're on the sweeter side, sweeter than Italian's tangy tomatoes. I've never used this kind, but I'm confident it'll make a great sauce. And then for seasonings, I'll have the recipe and amounts in the description. But I take the total weight of the tomatoes I'm going to use. This is 800 grams of tomatoes. This is 800 grams of tomatoes. For the sauce, or salt, I'm sorry, I'm going to use 0.16%. So for 1600 grams of tomatoes, I'm going to use 1.6 grams of salt, 1.6 grams of oil. I'm using 0.16 grams of dry oregano and 0.08 grams of dry basil. You can barely see it. A tomato sauce is supposed to be primarily tomato. Once you start adding too much oregano and everything else, it starts to taste like those seasonings more than the tomatoes themselves. So the secret is a small amount of seasoning, different tomatoes, and letting it sit in the fridge for at least 12 hours. That brings out a lot more flavor. So for a pizza Napolitana sauce, you're limited to two ingredients, and that's tomatoes and salt. So if I have an 800 gram can of San Marzanos, I'm going to use anywhere from 0.5% of that to 1% of that. So that'll be 4 to 8 grams of salt, and that's it. And I won't use the blender. I'll just hand crush everything because you want it to be somewhat chunky. So that's great if you're using a wood-fired oven or if you want that authentic flavor. Also, make sure there's basil leaf in the sauce. If you look at the ingredients, you'll see that. That has the fresh basil, so you don't need to add any. The idea is not to add any fresh ingredients, because if you're in a restaurant, for instance, you can get the health department off your back that way if you use dry ingredients and cans. This sauce can also be used after it marinates for a little bit. You can literally saute some garlic and fresh basil and reduce everything, and you got a great pasta marinara sauce. But for pizza, you do not cook the sauce until it's on the pizza. It's going to be on such a thin layer with a big surface area that it will cook all the way through on the pizza. Anyways, so let's start. I'm going to open both the cans. I'm going to throw my Italian tomatoes in the blender. And since it's all chunky, before I add my second can, I always add all my ingredients in. So in goes my oil, my oregano, my dry basil, and my salt. Put the top on. Since I added the Italian tomatoes first because they're whole tomatoes, so once it blends, it'll drop down, giving me enough space to add the second can. And I'm going to turn it on, and if you have a pulse option, do that just enough time to start breaking it down. Okay. You see, I'm almost at the top, so 2 cans does like just enough for a blender there. Taste these tomatoes. Beautiful. Close my blender. I'm just going to keep pulsing it. Might hit the low speed for a second. And voila! Just taste that sauce. Beautiful. So, that's my very, very simple tomato sauce. That'll make a wonderful pizza. I'll pour some in my trusty container here. And keep in mind, you can always do 2 containers because you can always freeze pizza sauce. That's what I usually recommend doing, actually, is doing one that you plan to use that week and then freezing the rest for the next week. So you can make a bunch ahead of time if you'd like. Also, another pro tip, when you're done using your blender, pour some soap in it. And some water. Put the cap back on. And just in case I don't want any soap in my sauce, I'm going to close my sauce. There we go. And I am going to mix water. You can fill it up more than that to clean more than that, but that'll help you clean the blade area and everything a lot easier. The rest is a quick rinse. You don't want the tomato to start to stick to the blender or anything like that. Just clean it right away. And I got a clean blender. Beautiful. Still got to clean the top though. And that's that. Super easy pizza sauce.